roundworm in my body for all these years, the doctors were telling me. And when I get to a dangerous level, my body would turn on my immune system and kill it off. But no longer have an immune system because of my transplants. So it allowed the roundworm to flourish and almost kill me. I spent like 30 days in the hospital. Uh,
They have to just bomb the body with antibiotics and
not
just
well, they ended up giving me pills or every like 16 pills at one sitting, and uh,
Antiparasitic pills.
from my doctor wife,
Parasitic.
anti-parasitic pills. And after 2 days, the chainsaw and blowtorch that was going on inside of my inside of my insides went away. So it was like instantaneous. It was like,
wow.
yeah, thank God for Cedar Sinai. They're a hell of a hospital, and Dr. Toto, the amazing Dr. Toto, figured it out again. He was scratching his head for a couple of weeks, but figured it out. They did a biopsy on my intestine when they were doing a nerve block on my pancreas, and that's when they found it. So that was my last deal with death. I was like 2 days away, according to the disease doctor, because he kept putting it off, because I was just putting the pain off. Like, I can deal with this, until it got to the point where everything. He goes, being Mr. Tough Guy, saying I can deal with it, almost cost you your life. And he goes, anytime it hurts like that, you got to tell us. And so here I sit right now, talking with the one and only Mr. Severn.
Well, okay. Here's a question for you. I know that we got Hannibal over here that wants that aspect, but be it from the cage fighting world and then going to the wacky world of professional wrestling.
Yes,
Okay, as I was go from the real world to this magical,
sure.
mystical world, what the what I guess that maybe not how were you treated, but what was your I guess first take upon it when you're being approached by companies that
Oh, yes.
want you to be involved?
Yes, I was approached by the WWE
I
at
mean,
first.
did it intrigue you? I mean, is that something that you thought that
Well,
you wanted to do, or
at the beginning of my career, I fought on Friday night, and they had Bash at the Beach, WCW, on Huntington Beach. And the agents and all that kind of stuff, I was the guest of honor of that show. I still had two black eyes and beat the hell the way I like to look sometimes. Uh,
it's an acquired taste? Okay,
yeah,
it's acquired
exactly.
taste.
And know, you went to battle the night before. It kind of brings back the memories. And so I went there, and like I said, I was kind of the toast of the party, and they were trying to get me to go that way, but I wasn't ready for that. I'm a warrior at heart, and that was I needed to make my name in fighting first, and then I could do that. And then my hand was forced when John McCain, Senator of Arizona, in the beautiful state I live in now, decided it was should be illegal,
Should be banned. You bet.
and I had nowhere to go. So I knew that were interested in me. So I ended up meeting with the WWE, and then I went down to WCW, uh, Ted Turner and the likes. Um, Eric Bischoff made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and the rest is history. I had a blast in WCW. It's a whole different walk of life than real fighting, but it's like a rock and roll band traveling show, and I was lucky enough to be part of it. It was a great time.
Yeah. No.
Probably expedited my cirrhosis of my liver. But then again, I've always said I'm a funaholic. I don't think I would have stopped doing it. I would have been doing it somewhere else. But it was a great time.
Yeah, no, being at WWF, it was, I'll say, strange on the outside, seeing it. And
Oh, sure.
I'm always kind of a person that kind of keeps to himself a little bit. So, but I sit back and observe. It's kind of like,
Uh huh.
even talking with Hannibal, I always tell people that I'll sit back and be quiet. you ask me a
Uh,
question, I'll give you that thorough answer at that point. But otherwise, I just kind of just sit back and watch what's going on because almost everywhere there's good, bad, all
sure,
at the same time. It just all depends on what you're into or what are you looking for.
exactly.
And
And
there's
how you take care of yourself and act.
yes, yes,
What kind of honor you have.
yep. I just got to do that. This is only ever going to be a certain portion of my life, and I had my career before,
Uh
and
huh.
there'll be whatever I do afterwards, and don't want to be, especially we live in this social media world now that everyone
Right.
wants to take selfie pictures and post it left and right. Well, I don't want anything that's going out there that's going to look bad upon family and
Oh
things of
yes.
that nature.
I'm more selfish. I don't care. Do whatever you want to do. Say whatever you want to say. I know the truth, and that's all that matters. You can try to twist it, but I know the truth.
Now, did you ever get an offer from WCW, Dan?
I was actually romanced by both companies, WWF at the time, now it was WWE and WCW. When I met with Eric Bischoff that day, he was trying to say, he goes, "Hey, I picture you as like a train wreck hitting the system." I'm thinking, train wreck is not exactly a good thing. So I wasn't quite, didn't quite understand how he meant going about this, but it's kind of like, I'll just say that I know what I was looking for, and WWF basically just agreed to my terms, and that's what I went with.
I see.
I never was looking at doing this on a full time basis because I was, it was going to be just a short period of time because I knew I was already older than what they were looking for. If they would know what my age was, they probably wouldn't have been talking to me. But I did not look my age. I did not act my age. So it was a good opportunity for me. So I worked just really a fraction of the schedule. The average wrestler was working 187 dates for Vince at the time, and I was working, I think, 60 is what my contract was for. So, and I had no type of restrictions, meaning I could work for the NWA, I could work for any other professionals company, but at the same token, they kind of do that. I'm kind of that old school kind of cloth that I'm not going to simply be doing the job for. Again, I always use like for Doink the Clown. I mean, I'm not to say being slanderous towards him, but I'm not going to, as a former NWA champion, I'm not going to be simply doing the job for a Doink the Clown. I've got too much respect for what the belt meant at one point, or and some of the people I spoke to. Can I say that that's the current status of that belt and the people that hold it? No.
You both fought Oleg Taktarov. What's your opinions of him as a fighter?
Please go ahead there, Dave. I'll let you take the floor first.
Oh, you start with the whatever. I think Oleg is a tough guy. Um, although he cheated to get where he got in UFC 6. That's not too much of a warrior characteristic.
What
But
I mean, I don't know what to be, but
well, he fought that little bitch, Anthony Macias, the guy that winked right before me. So um, he was fresh, didn't have the stress of facing the unknown, like what's going to happen in my next fight. Goes out and fights his friend that winks at him and goes out and falls down and does the job for him.
or were they trading partners or something like
Yes,
that?
well, I
Okay.
seen him when I was walking around in the things back in the day. You have to remember this wasn't like the UFC of current day. It was back ragtag things walking around the hotel and him and they were there's a whole group of people. They had Pat Smith,
Yeah,
uh, Oleg, I think Buddy Albin was their manager, and they were like, "Oh my God, this tank guy's for real." And at that point in time, wrestlers didn't know about what guillotines were, and Dan fell victim to that. I fell victim to that because Oleg got two guillotines on me, but I muscled my way out of them. but the second one took everything I had to get out and ended up rendering me not able to fight anymore productively. And so Oleg had a cake. He fought some guy from Canada, a wrestler, and he choked him out in a real quick guillotine because no one had seen it at that point in time. He was a wrestler. I can't remember his name. Then, then he fought the scourge of the UFC, the phony fake. With he's like the poster boy for all these fake guys that fight their little pretty boy bitch that should have been in there. Goes out and winks at him and falls down. And so Oleg is essentially fresh, where I fought the two biggest guys in the tournament, and regardless how easy they were to beat up, what have you, the stress of knowing that you're going to fight one of these big guys, it runs its toll up on me. And so Oleg was fresh, I was not, and we all saw how Pat Smith pulled out so the other guy could move in. It was all these things behind the scenes, which a lot of the UFC early ones did. Like with the Ferozzo fight, they set that up with the Shamrock, appropriate name Shamrock, pulling things behind the thing. I'm digressing, but that's where the
There's actually quite a few other stories that
Right.
you're alluding to that we could hit them easily go off into.
yes, exactly right. There's a word for that, but I won't use it.
What the hell is that sound, by the way? Just curious.
That's my cell phone. I forgot to.
Oh, that's your cell phone.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'll
I wasn't sure if it was a phone or his cuckoo clock or
it'll go
something.
for like about 12
Okay.
weeks before. But I apologize.
I thought he might have a bird clock.
I could actually go with it just.
It might be.
If you
done.
want to turn it
Yeah,
off.
It might be done.
Let keep talking. I'll just view it and then
Sure, sounds good.
keep going.
You can keep. Or someone wanted to know about catch wrestling.
I don't know what it is, but I'm imagining it's like trap fighting and catch fighting. Like they're gonna catch you in a like submission hold or something like that. That's what I'm guessing. Or a trap fighting and that's what I'm guessing at. All these uh, wannabe fighters and everything else, they come up with these esoteric terms to make themselves feel special, like they know something that somebody else doesn't know.
Yeah.
And so they're coming up with trap fighting and catch fighting. Something, I think it's an offshoot of professional wrestling.
Dan, could you tell us about that match you had with Tarzan Godo over in IWA?
Okay, professional wrestling, but
Yeah.
IWA was kind of like for these hardcore type of promotions. They do a little bit more Bob Moyer, some explosives, things of that nature, but that's not exactly my cup of tea. But it'd be Tarzan Godo would come out with a baseball bat wrapped in Bob Moyer, and they would swing it around, and it just. I'll just say that we kind of blended both worlds. He did what he does, and I did what I did, and really, that's probably all there's to say with it. It was, I think I probably did some things to him that he wasn't used to having done to him because again, my amateur wrestling background just tends to kick in different elements there. So it's kind of going. I look at things that are there, and I just go with it. So I think the previous interviews I've talked about. I've got the amateur wrestling folk style background, but then I've got that freestyle background. I started my freshman year in high school, and by my sophomore year I jumped into Greco, and then by my freshman year in college I jumped into judo, and then I jumped into sambo. So I mean I had a lot of different elements of grappling implemented. So way before Chef Blatnick helped coin the term mixed martial arts, mixed martial artist, I would, not only but there were other people that were doing the exact same, that were cross trained in different forms of martial arts. So to me, I just was training different elements of wrestling, grappling, just to try to help my career out. That's all I was looking for, just to help win more matches, do something that's is not normally seen, or just take on certain elements of it.
You know, but it's funny because I said yesterday that I was the person that came up with mixed martial arts because everybody wanted to interview me and they said, well, what are you? And I say, you don't understand. I'm a wrestler at heart from wrestling. I've been wrestling since I was 9 years old. Wrestling is what I'm all about, but I am not just a wrestler. I went to the boxing gym and now I'm training in jiu-jitsu and submission. So you take all that kind of stuff and you mix it all together. And that's what I must have gave 50 interviews to everybody. And I used to say that mix it all together. And out of that, maybe Blatnick stole it from me because he came up with the, I don't give a rat's ass either way. But it's, I was the one that was coining that phrase and he must have,
Huh.
yeah, it's just a little tidbit for history. Just like the gloves, everybody wants to say I didn't come up with the gloves. I was the one that came up with the gloves. I dare anybody to find somebody on the UFC that's wearing those kind of gloves, not a golfing glove or a boxing glove on alternates that you never saw on TV. Someone wearing those gloves. Me. So there.
Dan, you didn't like it when they brought it the mandatory gloves, did you?
Um,
It wasn't
what,
mandatory when I fought. I was
yeah, when they were starting to implement the gloves, I mean, the gloves, I was okay with the gloves. It was the taping of the hands underneath the gloves.
uh-huh.
Putting on just a pair of MMA gloves, you still have the capability of
Wrestle.
gripping and grabbing. And again, the wrestler at heart, I want to be able to take people down. I want to be able to do lateral drops, headlocks. And by the time you tape your hands, it's like you tape your hands like a boxer's. It really restricts your movement, and
Yeah.
then you put on the gloves on top of that. So I mean, literally, I went throughout my entire career, only ever having to tape my hands once, where the athletic commission's like, no, it's mandatory. You must tape your hands. I'm like, what's the bare bones minimum?
Right.
And they said, well, basically one piece of gauze and one piece of tape. So I basically had one piece of gauze, one piece of tape, and as I'm putting the glove on, it's actually falling off.
Right, sure.
And now the athletic commission's like, well, what good is that going to do? And I go, what part of did not want to have any on my hands at all.
You're
So
just going by the rules.
yeah, again, just trying to play the rules just to my benefit, knowing that I need to be able to grip people. I was never going to win matches with the Dukes of Hazzard because that was not my skill set. But if I could get a hold of somebody within my grappling range, I was good to go. And last I knew, people had to be within arm's reach in order to punch, legs, range to kick, knee, elbow. So it's kind of like going. I just was pretty good about staying back, just enough out of range, bait people to do things, and then trying to close that distance, get the clinches, or just jam them up against cage walls. And that literally was my whole career, just doing those kind of elements.
What are your thoughts on this Lithway type of fighting that's becoming popular now, where headbutts are allowed? And you could, I don't know if they're going to allow this rule in the US, but apparently the knocked out opponent can be revived within 2 minutes to get back into it.
I'm not even aware of this. Are you aware of this?
No, I'm
Uh,
not. But sounds pretty cool.
A guy named Dave Leduc is the world champion of it. I've interviewed.
But is the name of the organization, or do they call this fighting something different than MMA or
It's called Lithway.
Lithway?
Yeah, I think it comes from
never heard of
Myanmar,
it before.
but they've started to have some in the U.S. now too.
But I would think that if you're going to get knocked out and they revive you just to possibly get knocked out again,
Yeah.
I'm not exactly. I don't think that's a good career move.
Yeah,
Everybody tries to outdo it one more time, like bare knuckle and all that kind of stuff, which is like ludicrous. Why would you fight bare knuckle? The only reason why you have gloves is to save your hands. It
yeah.
has nothing to do with being bare knuckle. That's like dumb. That's about the phonies that get into fighting that don't know anything about fighting, and they want to go, oh, let's do something crazier. No, no gloves, bare knuckle. That's stupid.
Are you surprised that's being sanctioned?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, but I don't know. It's not going to last. I don't think. Who wants to go out there and hurt their hand?
I know there's been pay issues with some of the bigger organizations. I don't know if the current ones are still like that, but I know Chris Lieben and Phil Baroni had pay issues,
Well,
and they
really,
were
I mean, the bare knuckle. I mean, aside from Ultimate Fighting Championships, when they had the no holds barred bare knuckle aspect of it at the beginning, now with the bare knuckle boxing that's coming out aboard, it really has not been around that long inside the United States.
Oh, it's a
And
dumb thing if you know anything about fighting. It's not all it's gonna do is bust your hands up and maybe cut your face up.
yeah, I gotta say that's why I look at that. That's the knuckles. That's more meant you're gonna get much more cuts around the
Yeah,
eyebrows, more nose breakage, more cut up lips, things of that nature.
but it's
And
not gonna make any difference in a fight.
but you're saying overall though, just the punishment to the hands. Are we talking about like long range, start to get arthritis and things of that nature,
Well,
or
that's gonna happen anyways, but not when you're young. Oh, that's not gonna happen to me. Like, yeah. But no, like when you're in a fight, you punch somebody, your hands get messed up.
potentially even broke in the process,
Yeah,
especially if a
but
guy
if you have those gloves on, it takes away
the
from
back.
cutting. Like I used to have like railroad track scars all over my knuckles. I don't know how I acquired them, but some people out there in Huntington Beach can tell you how. Anyways, the you just mess your hands up. You break your hands, and your hands get cut up, and you get infected, and that's why I was like, I can't fight 3 times in one night with no gloves. That's stupid. I mean, and then like, what did these martial art guys run around thinking? Oh, that's crazy. It's not crazy. It's stupid.
Okay, when you came up with this glove idea,
Uh,
did you have to run it past the UFC, or did they
yes,
simply
I
just
had a they had a fighters meeting at the show I was at.
okay? What
And
what what, what number was this event that you wore the glove?
6,
Okay,
and so I went into the fighters meeting and I asked them about fish hooking. They didn't know what it was. And Big John McCarthy is nothing but a Gracie stooge, meaning he pushed their Gracie Jiu Jitsu. And that was all a conflict of interest. They have a fight show, but they're going to pick who's going to fight in it. I mean, just by that nature, it's a conflict of interest. So if I had a fight show,
so what
you,
you're trying
you
to say is that Jorge Gracie, being what half ownership of the UFC at
yes,
that point in time, might have a
he
little bit
picked
of a vested interest.
yes, and then
I,
UFC 6 comes along, and the average.
I'm just trying to lead you a little bit.
Yeah,
That's because
thank you.
I felt
Yes,
exactly the same way that it was basically a marketing tool, and I tip my hat off
commercial.
to it. It worked.
As a commercial.
And then book commercial for selling Gracie Jiu-Jitsu
Yes,
franchises. So yeah,
exactly right. And so they picked who was going to fight.
yeah.
Like Joe Son, that guy's a killer. No, he is a killer and a rapist now. I guess he picked the wrong guy.
yeah, that was Chemo's trainer, right?
Yes, the guy that got found. He stabbed somebody or he sliced somebody's tires, and they had to do a DNA test on him. This is what I think. And they did a DNA test on him because he pleaded guilty to a felony vandalism charge.
Yeah.
When they ran his DNA, he was popped for rape and then statute. He raped some girl on the beach. That ran out, so the feds went after him with a torture charge.
Wow.
He got a torture charge with some sentence like 25 or whatever. And then he killed his celly. And I think he got death on that. So
Oh wow.
he was always he used to go to the boxing gym that I used to go to, the Rocky Westminster Boxing Gym, the Rocky Boxing Gym, back in the old days, and he was a scumbag from those days, and I would have not a thing to do with him. He always wanted to hang out, party. I'm like, I had my bad person radar on, and I was like, nah, dude, I don't need to hang with you.
Was he? Is he gone now? I mean, is he?
He's on death row.
Oh, he's on death row. Okay, I didn't know if he had already.
I'm guessing he might just be doing life, but I think he is on death row.
He's still alive for sure because I interviewed Chemo
I don't know.
not too long
I don't,
ago,
you
and
know,
he didn't talk about him as if he was dead, and
yeah,
he would have known.
yeah.
Now, as far as fighting over in the UK, there's a UK fan watching the live version of this. They want to know both of your memories of the UK.
I was completely. They called me. I had like 2 day notice, and they said, "You want to fight?" And how much money you have? And I said, "Okay, I can do that. I'm sitting in a bar right now, but I'll get off the stool and fly over there." Went over there. I filled in for Bob Sapp. Fought on Sky TV. I was jet lagged, crazy tired. Don't really have any thoughts other than that big Ferris wheel thing that goes around by the river there. I think it's the Thames or whatever. That was a scary little play. Not scary, but it's like, whoa, it was impressive. That was my takeaway from, what is it, Great Britain, the UK, whatever.
You must have enjoyed the beer over there.
Yeah, it was good.
Almost any beer outside of
I was
the
gonna
United,
say,
the United
yeah.
States has a little bit better, more kick to it. I mean, most Canadians
Yeah.
don't like the beer inside the United States because it's watered down. Kool-Aid is what I hear most of Canadian counterparts refer to our beverages like.
I don't really remember much partying there. I went out there and I fought. I fought as long as I could, and there's a lot of things. There's not a lot of fighters out there that will show up on a couple days' notice. They have to get the Rolodex out, and then they finally come to T, and they go, "Oh, Tank will do it." That dumbass. But no, I'm not a dumbass. I just love to fight, and that's it. And so, what the hell? I said, "Ah, yeah, go over there." Flew over there. It was interesting bringing the pounds back um, home here because I put them in a bag and I forgot to declare any
Oh.
money. And so I had a little what's that movie called where they find a hash on them?
I don't even remember.
Midnight Express.
Midnight Express. I had my
Yeah.
own private Midnight Express going through customs.
Hopefully they didn't
with a
body
big
cavity search you.
with a big bag of money under my hand. I'm like, no.
They're like grabbing people's dicks now in custom too. Have you ever experienced that? I had
Was
that.
Shamrock working for them?
Yeah, yeah. I experienced that, and I'm like, what the hell? What do you think I'm doing there?
I'm gonna go with you.
Yeah,
I want
yeah,
to have to be
Is this
searched like
just
that.
recently this happened?
yeah,
Really? Wow.
yeah. In December, I was like, what the hell
The
is
pet
this?
now. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's that at? I'm gonna go fly every day there.
Other question would be:
Yeah.
was that a male or female guard? No.
Yeah,
Close your eyes. It
I'll,
doesn't
Yeah,
I'll
matter.
leave that up to people's imagination. But Dan, what about you over in the UK?
I've been to the UK on a number of occasions for both professional wrestling, but then also the fight world. But then even one match where I'll say that again, I was flying over there to where some volcano erupted and had to have planes were being rerouted, and I think I was I'm trying to think where for for 5 days, 4 nights, had to hang out in an airport.
Wow.
And so that was I can tell you all about that airport at that time, but here to let me, I can't even come up with the name here right offhand. But that was I saw the very best of human beings, and I saw the very worst in human beings. It was all about for survival's sake because it took them like 2 days before any kind of a Red Cross. I mean, it was people were like the first night. So people just camped out wherever they could camp out because they weren't really allowed to leave the airport. All the local hotels were already filled up, and they're basically having you there. It took them, like I said, like a couple of days before they got Red Cross set in there with some cots and showers. And if you got people that have medication that was on the airplane that they can't get back off, so it was real chaotic and see see the very best in some people where they they helped each other, and then other aspects were hoarding of food and with the Red
Toilet
Cross.
paper.
Yeah, well, get that's more recent. We're talking about
I know what I'm saying. I've
yeah,
done
no,
that.
it's
Like
yeah.
toilet paper. That all these people.
Yeah,
But it was just an interesting thing to go through it. Obviously, I never made that show, but it was. I would just say that I had a volcano that stopped one of my matches.
Any experience.
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on women in MMA? It didn't exist when you guys were there at the beginning, and now it's one of the more popular forms of MMA for viewers.
Well, me being ugly with no game, there was no women in my life in wrestling or fighting. So I was lucky enough to find my beautiful wife, and she's a great person. So women weren't in my Rolodex of fun at the time.
At one point, you wanted to fight Ronda Rousey.
I think she brought that up, or somebody brought it up, and once again, it's called biology. I mean, we don't need he she's fighting in the UFC. I sound like an old grandpa or something like that, but no. And a woman fighting a man. Wake up! There's biological differences between males and females, and
No matter who you identify with that morning, right?
right.
Yeah.
And so I don't whatever she's whatever skills. What's all these people get behind technique and skills. Oh, what do you think? I just fell off the turnip truck and rolled up in the street and decided to fight. I've wrestled my whole life. I've boxed my whole life. I've trained with world champions in both sports, but I took it to the street and adjusted people that had bad attitudes. Everybody thinks they're tough in Southern California, especially back in those days, and they rapidly found out different when they came across somebody like myself. And I guess, yeah, probably I was looking for those kind of people. It was
Now,
fun.
women in UFC, Dan.
Yeah, well, with Dana White was asked that question, I mean, he quickly was like, tried to poo poo it. I'm thinking, oh, Dana, you are going to eat those words so quickly because
Uh-huh.
the inevitability, women boxing, it eventually came about. I mean, it came about, what, almost 100 years after the sport of boxing had been going, but it came on out. And then, you got men's MMA
But you,
that's taking place.
I don't cut you off, but you have to qualify or make clear that it's not men against women.
Correct. No,
Yeah,
these were two distinct differences. I mean,
different
yeah,
areas,
women
right?
compete against women, men compete against men. Whereas, I mean,
That's fine.
it,
I'm all down for that.
yeah, I think that all kind of came about here within the last couple weeks.
There's going to be a sunscreen pause here.
Yeah, here. You need to
Has
see
to
your
do with
face.
my
Don't
medicine.
forget.
Yeah,
I
I'll
didn't do
use the
it straight.
bathroom while you're doing that pause, but I'll let you guys just jump back into it.
Yeah, I'm looking at him. I'm like, you're getting ready.
starting to get red. Yeah,
Would you like some, Dan?
I think I'm okay for right now.
You sure, David? Let me get your arms, honey.
I get, I can get skin cancer from my medicine.
Oh,
That's why she's being hyper vigilant.
no, that's good though. That's so good.
Oh, I'd be dead without her.
It's got like makeup. Okay, let's go makeup.
Yeah.
Okay, honey. All right. You sure?
Yeah, I'm good
Okay.
for now. Good
Okay.
for now.
Yeah, no. So I got heat from that. I was kind of hoping you wouldn't step in a hole. I got heat. Oh, you want to fight a woman? I was like, no, I don't want to fight a woman.
yeah.
But the outcome is ludicrous that you're sitting there saying that it would be a competition.
Yeah,
A
no.
145-pound man, woman, or child is not gonna fight with me.
But that go get with all the political realm of the world that we're in right now, where they're trying to say that
I know. That's what I.
who
I-
do you identify
she-
with that not to be a parent anymore?
she's
Let your
always-
kids make your own
She's
decisions.
always coming here going, you shouldn't say that. Like, I'm not running for president. I'm just going to tell you who I am. I'm a warrior, and I have warrior principles that I live by, which is like courage, honesty, integrity, truthfulness, and loyalty and fidelity. And I'm on your team. You don't have to worry about me running. I'll be there fighting right next to you. And that's what I live by. But if you don't like that, then you don't like me. Go like Tito, fucking scumbag. I never finished this story, but
Yeah.
Kerr said that the team went on a hike to lose weight. Tito asked for the keys. He said he forgot something in the van, and they were staying overnight and the whole 9 yards, so they cut weight and everything. He went down to the van and fucking drove into town and ate at a diner and stuff, and then came back. And he's like, "What took so long?" He's, I was sitting down in the van, and then he said we walked down the next day, and there's tire tracks backed out and the whole 9 yards. I go, he's not my buddy. He's a scumbag. I go, I'm just here to wrestle with Steven. And he's all, oh, okay. And then he ripped off $500 from a check out of my glove compartment there. He got a blank check out of my glove compartment. I wrote it to himself. He asked me for a loan first. I said, I know who he was, his character, and if I had it, I'd give it to you. He's like, oh. So then when I'm wrestling with Steve Neal after practice, we're at a barrel. We were going, a good half hour afterward. And walk out, and he's in my truck. I'm like, what the fuck you doing in my truck, dude? He goes, oh, it's cold. I was just waiting for you. I go, okay. Not thinking anything of it, trying not to think like a bad person. He's a bad guy. And then when it was back in the day where they returned your checks. It was the next day after he asked for it, signed for $500 to his brother. I'm like, I took it to the bank, and the bank goes, we'll cover this. Fraud's going to call you. I said, sure, I'll tell you. His name's Jacob Ortiz, and that's what this is. And I go, okay. I go, that's his brother right there.
So were there any repercussions then?
They never said anything, and the only thing I could come up with is that his brother must have paid the check. Like, they called up and said, hey, what's going on? And he said, what? That check's no good? I'll cover it. And they probably swept it under the rug. But that guy's a piece of trash. That's not... Oh, my God. He got me started.
Do you think they should have a wrestling match together, professional wrestling, Tito Ortiz versus Tank?
You know what? He wouldn't fight me.
No?
I go, let's do a fight right here on the beach. I go, I'll find a promotion to do it. He was with Jenna Jameson out on the patio thing. I went outside, and everybody went to the window. I go, look at this, Tito. I go, everybody thinks I'm going to kick your ass right now. And his wife, well, it wasn't his wife, but his girlfriend, the porno chick, pulls her and looks at him like, you're going to let this guy talk to you like that? And he's all, hey, dude, hey. And I go, you're Mr. Getting Over you with Chuck Liddell and everything. I go, why don't you fucking grow some balls and we'll meet in between. I'll cut weight down to like 220 and then we can fight. I used to spank the shit out of him. And he's like, oh, yeah. And I go, then we can find out. You're calling yourself Huntington Beach bad boy. We'll see who the real bad boy is. I go, besides all that, we'll make a lot of money off it. We probably would have made a lot more money than him and Chuck. But he's like, oh, yeah, sure. And he has my phone number and I called. So I don't know if he would do wrestling because he would think that I would cater him.
He needs to prove himself, though, because he didn't get signed. I don't know if you saw the video, Dan, of Tito Ortiz having his WWE tryouts. I guess it was last year. He put out Norman Smiley was training him. But the next thing we know, he's mayor of Huntington Beach, or he's on the council there. So it seems like that didn't get
so
through.
if the mayor goes out, he's the one that fills in. And they tried to kick him off the council, and he gets up, typical Tito fashion, starts crying. Poor me, I'm a victim, and you guys are just ganging up on me, and I'll try. And then they all go, okay, we're not going to do it this time, but if you do it again, we're gonna recall you. Oh, please.
Well, he really hasn't been in office so long, or has he?
3 months.
Okay.
And they already want to get rid of him.
Wow. That's pretty quick.
It was like, how did that fucking lying scumbag get into the city council? He got the most votes ever from anybody that ran for the mayor there. Jack Kelly, he used to be one of those rifleman TV show. He was a mayor for a long time. I would think that Jack Kelly might would have had a higher votage thing. He had like 40,000 people vote for him. And they're like, what the fuck? Why are you? I was like, yeah, that's Tito. He's a fucking lying fucking phony, just like he is in fighting. He's not a very good fighter. He's similar to you. He goes out and does a takedown and holds you on the ground.
What about a political future for Tank Abbott?
No.
Okay, why?
First of all, I don't have any desire to do that. And
Okay.
I don't like people. and I don't want people bothering me for anything, much less a city council movement type thing about anything, all the way down to masks and everything else. I just like, no, you guys go figure it out. Leave it for the smart people like Tito Ortiz. You know, he's real smart. Look, YouTube him. Oh, the first 10 shows are how dumb that guy is. But
Now,
I don't like how Tank is sugarcoat this right now. I really wish he'd express himself right now. Just he's skirting the issues here.
well, how have your dealings been with Tito, Dan? I've never actually heard you talk about him.
I've only ever, I think, I might have met him just once, possibly.
you're lucky.
You know, and so it's kind of like going. I've never really had any dealings with him. Yeah, just whatever. I think I just met him once. That was in passing.
Tito has good people radar. Like if he knows that you have morals and the such,
Yeah.
he will kind of avoid you. Like if he knows that you have the capability to be on his game,
Yeah.
he'll go, oh, nope, nope, don't try to ruffle that guy's feathers. He's going to call me out. Well, I'm trying to do a public service announcement. Tito Ortiz is a scumbag.
There you go.
I have personal, and I'm not bitter. Tito's never done anything to me that I would be bitter about other than stealing from me. It's to break into my house when I wasn't there, rummage through my house, take alcohol, take a variety of things, and then go, are you still at the bar? It was before cell phones. He would call the bar to make sure I was in the bar, and then he would go to my house. My friends, Eddie Reese, told me all about it, and he used to brag about it. Story in part will tie it up. I know that I'm doing this, but we were in Georgia, and Kevin Randleman and Tito Ortiz broke the candy machine glass and took pillowcases and took all the candy out of it and brought it back to their room. And brought it back to their room, and they're acting like it was kindergarten. I wasn't there. Eddie Reese told me about this, and so that's hearsay, but whatever. This is the story I was told. And they were all throwing the candy on the bed and all like, get this and this and this. And
Sounds like Halloween did that.
yeah,
Like,
so
what's in your bag and what's in my bag?
right,
And,
yeah. Look what I got. I got extra Funyuns. What's in the bag? So he's there, and then he was spouting off to Eddie about him being professional now that he's up into this level, claiming that he's Mr. Professional. And Eddie goes, "What the fuck are you talking about?" He goes, "You got these UFC shows with Tank, and you're out there breaking in candy machines and filling up your pillowcases with with candy. I mean, and you're talking about being Mr. Professional. Oh Lord, this is going to be a hate Tito moment right here. I promise I won't bring him up anymore, but we'll see.
Well, again, just a question, just out of my own curiosity. You're here now in Scottsdale, Arizona. I mean, are there
Yes.
any projects that you're working on? I mean, what consumes your time right now? What are you working on? Do you have a memoir, a book?
Yeah, hey, thanks for bringing that up. I don't know if you did that on purpose or not.
No, again, this actually, I'm just curious as to
And
you're here.
it's a novel.
Really, actually, I did not know that.
And the novel is called Before There Were Rules. And it's also a parody, kind of like Mad Magazine and stuff like that. And you're in the book. The final, there's three. It's over 1,000 pages long,
Wow.
and it's the third book of the trilogy, and it's called Cage Fighter. Starts off with Bar Brawler, then Street Warrior, and then it's Cage Fighter. And because it's like Mad Magazine, there's a character in there called Sam Devon.
Okay.
Okay, and he's at UFC 6, and that guy fights a guy named Sham Pebble Rock, and they get into it and don't really get into the fight because I'm talking about as an observer and as it being a novel, meaning it's not true. Um, Standing back, taking it in, and about like if you were a fighter, what would you see, and how did it go down there? Like,
Okay.
so it's very visual book, and Walter Fox is the main character. It starts with him fighting on the streets and like going to jail for it, getting out of jail and going, "Oh my God, what is my life going to be if I keep on doing this?" And so Walter Fox fights in the show, and that's when Oleg, or it's Olaf Cheetolot, the Russian guy that fights in the
I like the names you come up with here so far.
yes. So Olaf Cheetolot fights Walter Fox in the finals. But all the behind scenes that I know about, I included in my novel, my story I made up of how the Garcia brothers with their jiu-jitsu from Mexico didn't participate in the show anymore because they didn't own it anymore and they couldn't pick the fighters. But Semaphore and Bob took over. His name is Meyer Bobowitz. And that guy took over and they kind of made the fight tournament, which was tournament. They manipulated it so Olaf Cheetolot would be fresh to fight Walter Fox in the finals, and then Walter Fox goes on. If you know, if you're a dilettante out there and a fact finder and the whole 9 yards, this book is a novel, but it's probably written by an insider that would know a lot about it, which would be myself, and it's a hell of a read. I might have to get Dan the first 2 books before he leaves. Although I don't know if he knows how to read.
Yeah, you did give me a copy of
It's not
it, by the
picture
way.
book. I take it then. Okay.
No, it's
He drew the artwork for it.
color book.
He drew the
I'll
artwork for
give
it.
I'll give you a free box of crayons.
There you go. I have a hard time keeping it within the line. So.
Right. We have more in common than we know. But so is that when Joke Pebble choked out Sam Devon on that super fight? That was the first super fight.
The first
Yeah?
match.
First
Yeah,
super
yeah,
fight. Yeah. And Joke Pebble has a lot of stories about his behavior back in the day. Comes from Japan, thinking he was a superstar. Oh, it's a good chuckle. I mean, if you like Mad Magazine
there's
stuff.
well, again, there's actually I love that magazine. I
Uh-huh.
like their sarcastic humor.
Sally, yeah, I actually made uh, um, Mad Magazine. I was sewer tank in Mad Magazine.
Really?
Yeah, somewhere in there I got it. I got stacks and stacks of stuff for all you memorabilia people. Videos, VHS tapes. You know what that is?
I have to look at that, to Google that, or go to the Smithsonian.
You're right, exactly. What's a VHS?
Hey Tank, he wanted me to tell you about haters. Somebody says your nickname should be the King of Excuses, Abbott.
Oh, they're
You
not
have a response
excuses.
to him?
They're not excuses. I tell everybody I lost. There are reasons why I lost. I never cheated, uh, fought my friend. I didn't do any of those things. I was a warrior. I go out and get my ass kicked. I sat there and told you. Somebody asked about Pedro Hizo and Hugo Duarte. I handed it to Hugo Duarte, but I got my ass kicked by Pedro Hizo. Does that sound like an excuse?
Yeah. Now, Dan, you beat Kurt Angle in amateur wrestling. There was always talk of him going into UFC. How do you guys think he would have done? How do you?
I think he would have done well. I mean, it just again, it all depends on what time area are we talking about. I mean, if it was early on, because like I talk about my own career, you know, I was basically a one trick pony. I was not going to win the stand up game of strikes, kicks, knees, or anything at that nature. I was good at grappling and trying to control. I mean, that's what amateur wrestling does. It helps you control the tempo, it helps you control your opponent, and a lot of the techniques that you do to get a athlete to the back, which I mean, they're easily going to roll over, and because they're fighting off their back in the guard position.
Well, What do you think? You know, you brought up a point that people bring up. What do you think about the fighters or the athletes of today compared to us? I happen to think that you're the only other fighter that fought in the UFC that didn't take steroids. Um, but these new generation kids that are, where's mommy? They need to suck their tits and give them money. They probably still live at home, which isn't a bad deal. I lived at home for a long time too. Um, but they're like, oh, if you only knew this, what, like, if you could only learn this, like, it's something we weren't capable of learning. He's a very accomplished wrestler, and if people looked into my wrestling, they would understand that also. I just happen to take that stuff and take it to the street to deal with smartasses. Um, but what do you think about these new fangled guys like, oh, you're old school stuff? No, we were warriors. We were tough son of a bitches. Something you can't learn in a fucking gym. And so you can sit there and go, oh, if I just did that, you vicariously live through these new fighters to make yourself feel good because you're still a pussy if you're saying that.
No, there's a lot with what you say there.
So what I want to know what you think about the new breed we were what we were. We weren't this MMA gym creation.
No, there were no. You could Google MMA. You could Google how to do a training camp. I mean, you weren't doing training camps. I
No.
wasn't doing training camps.
Right.
So it was kind of like going. You simply just went out there and you did what you know what to do.
And
That's
you had
all it was
you had
boiled down to.
balls and you had warrior heart things in your head.
I mean, half the time there would be like certain rules that all just depend on what the event was at. All of a sudden, it might be like, okay, because we're in this state now, we have to abide by this, and you're finding out about that just that night when you are showing up at the show.
Uh-huh.
But then when you look at what used to be the Friday night weigh-in slash press conference, you know, there were no weigh-ins back in that the whole part area. You showed up to a press conference, and literally you didn't even know who the other 7 men were.
They picked them out of a
Bingo
ball.
machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, that's what that was what it was before. Because you're there, you finally see the other 7 contestants, and all of a sudden you realize, you know, they just kind of randomly go down. You got a mediator that's behind the podium there. He just goes contestant number 1. There's a Ken Shamrock. Then you talk about height, weight, a little bit of the background. They sit down. Next person stands up. There's a Hoist Gracie. They talk about height, weight, background, and then they pull out the bingo ball and machine, and they spin it. And all of a sudden, boom! Here pops out. There's a number 1. There's a tank gap. There's number 2. There's a Hoist Gracie, something like that. So you finally know less than 24 hours before you're going to step into the cage, and now you're like going, well, who is this guy? What do we know about him?
That's Severn's example. But you want to know what? They changed it the night of. They had alternates in all these.
Sure, there's alternates as well. Yeah.
Back left, Sam Devern and Oleg Cheetah in the NHP finals. They change in the back. Pat Smith pulls out, and then another guy comes in. And you know what? The warriors that we are, and I consider him a warrior. There's other fighters out there that are far from it. They're just fakes, phonies, and actors trying to get a little glory and a little bit of riches if they can find it, but mostly glory. But they're all phonies and fakes. And yes, the T word's coming up. Tito's one of them. And what you got that other Joker boss route, and he runs around like he's Bruce Lee or something. Guy got his ass kicked by Kevin Randleman. It's on tape. Check it out, people. That's the only reason why he won is because they finagled these judges in there and they jobbed him. And so Boss Rutan, and he's in the Hall of Fame, believe it or not. What? He's a joker like no else. I'm glad he's into acting and he can go after his want to be the next Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris. Bruce Lee, here's the books.
Yeah.
Those are the first 2.
Which is number 1?
That's first one, Barbara.
Okay. So book 1, book 2. All right.
Show them to the camera. You guys need
Sure.
you need to
If you don't
buy
mind.
these.
Book one,
Yeah.
book two.
Yes,
The only
Amazon,
reason the
The
third
Fire
one's coming out.
and that's
Before
his
they were
that's
free.
his artwork on the cover of the newest one. That's one of Tank's original paintings.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I mean, it's
Well,
actually.
you can read that. You're in book number 3, which is done, and it's in the editor's hands, and he's taken. That's when.
No, that's fantastic.
Give it to Don Fry to read.
Huh?
Someone's asking on air, "Where's Don Fry?" It seems
What?
out of place
Don
without him.
Fry. Fuck Don Fry.
You should present those to Don at the podcast.
I'm putting that on my answering machine on my phone. Abbott, Tank Abbott. Fuck Tank Abbott. It's
I don't think
awesome.
Dad saw that video.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
It was
I
at the
don't think I
horse.
am.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
in a lot of ways. I think I kind of live in a little bit of a cave because I don't.
Oh, that's you
I
see
try
where
not.
I live.
I
I'm
try
way out
not to
here.
get. There's too much of this. Facebook, everything anymore. Social media, everything. Everyone wants to take their selfie and they want to make
Oh, yeah,
it.
exactly.
They want to elevate themselves because also they'll be like,
Uh-huh.
spin around. Look,
I know.
I'm like going, ah.
I know the whole story.
Can I get
Sorry.
that spray? Just, it's a little sunny, if
Absolutely,
you don't mind.
of course.
Or is it like saying
Yeah.
makeup? No, I'm
So the whole thing. You don't think I can wrestle? I wrestled with a world champion for 5 weeks.
the Schultz. I mean,
Yeah,
you had
Mark Schultz.
Mark, yeah.
And he actually mentioned you because he said he went on a wrestling thing with
International
you.
trip, yeah.
Yeah, and he
International.
said, because you know how I remember Severn. He goes, some guy was bothering me.
Thank you. Can you just spray it at your face it or what?
Yeah,
so
just you could have sprayed wherever you want.
spray it on him. Spray it on him.
Yeah, just I'll just
Yeah,
do
just
mine.
close your eyes.
she's a
Try
great
it out.
applicator. You hated guys that had oil on them, didn't you, Dan? You thought that was unfair.
What's that?
The guys that would put oil on them.
Well, yeah, there was
Oh, of course.
because there's an advantage because I'm looking to try to get good grips for good throws stuff like that. You put baby oil on you, and it's you go from being around the waist till you're up in the armpits, and the moves that would have been way more effective. I'm not being able to pull off.
So we were talking about the fights and that. I seen on Hannibal that he was talking to you earlier, previous, and you said something about me hitting the Samoan when he was knocked
Oh
out.
yeah, no, I can tell you.
Okay, but here's my point of view.
Right.
I am in full rev gear. It's on. It's fight forward, and it's and I'm not stopping. I didn't knock him unconscious, walk to the side of the thing, and see him still sitting there. I was still going. I was in attack mode. So I didn't sit there and go consciously go, oh, he's fucked up. I'm going to kick him or I'm going to punch him. I was on go mode.
Yeah.
If I had a second or two to get out of that mode, I wouldn't have hit him.
No, I can understand. I see what I hate.
I don't even care.
No,
Yeah.
Go. Let's fast forward to today.
Uh-huh.
There are, I really question a lot of the referees. Period, because there's guys that are taking way too much punishment.
Well, the
And-
referees also they're giving them punishment, but from the onslaught of John McCarthy. John McCarthy has a lot to do with the fight. Not my biggest fan. Probably doesn't like me, but I never lost an ounce or a second of sleep over it. But the point is, he affects the fights.
With the rules,
When just my parody there, when Olaf, Cheetalot, and Walter Fox are fighting, he pulls them up for no reason. And this is UFC 6. There's no rules.
Yeah.
And Walter Fox pulls out of the second guillotine, and he goes, oh, boom. Like, I'm exhausted. I'm going to lay here and rest, get my wind back. I just pulled out of a guillotine. Well, Walter Fox did. And so he then goes, okay, get up. Where Oleg's in the guard not doing anything, just blocking. So he's fresh. Well, where did that rule come from, John? It was never, ever, don't touch the fighters, let the fight go. But obviously he was saving TV time because it was running out. But why did he do that? And then there's other fights, like with this cut on my head that I got from cabbage. They were putting adrenaline or what have you to stop the bleeding. He hit me with a knee. And the guy goes, "Are you all right?" And I go, "No, I got goop in my eye. I can't see. Like, just wipe it." He goes, "I can't see. Stop the fight." I'm like, "No. What are you doing?"
Yeah, the goop that's in my eye, I can't
Yes,
see.
no, but he's looking for every angle. And then,
Your pool boys have arrived.
he just fucked the door up.
We may. Hey, how was the meeting with your stepdaughter's boyfriend the other night?
I did get a chance to meet him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, he was nowhere to be found.
I see.
Yeah, no, that was.
Devin was telling me he had some nice art on the.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, we won't get into that. I was just
Hey,
curious.
Christy, how you doing?
Good, I didn't want to disturb you.
Oh, no worries. Hey, James, you want to meet Dan Severn?
Sure.
Sorry to mark you out.
No.
Mark you out.
That's cool. How we doing?
Good.
First name again?
Pleasure to meet you.
First name?
James.
James. Nice to meet you, James.
Pro clip looks good.
Oh, yeah. He turned me on to his hair cutter out here.
What are both of your thoughts on chemo?
Chemo's a tough guy. He's not a wrestler. He's not a striker. He's just a tough guy. What people think of me because I claim the street as my thing, which I believe is synonymous with real fighting. It's not fighting with a wrestling background. It's not fighting with a striking background. It's not fighting with a submission background. I mixed them all together and I took them to the street. Jeff Blatnick, rest in peace, Jeff. He was a cool guy. Might have picked it up off of me, but I can't tell you how many interviews I would do. I was the top dog after my first show. Everybody wanted to talk to me because I had more personality than most. And so everybody was talking to me, and then they go, "What's your style? What's your style?" Like all these kids out there nowadays. And I go, "No, I just fight." And they go, "Are you a wrestler?" I go, "Yes, I'm a wrestler." "Are you a striker?" "Yeah, I can strike." You know submission? I know enough submission not to get caught. And I go, I just take it all. I mix it all together, and I fight. I don't have a plan. I don't go out with a strategy. I'm going to tire him out and do this and that. And
You know what your strengths are.
mixed martial arts, and that's what it was. And so.
Yeah, I the same played off this what Tate just said. When I went to my very first UFC, they're basically trying to get all this basic information about you, and then when they hit me with the question, "Well, what is your martial art?" I had never been asked a question like that, and I simply just looked at the gal and like going, "I'm an American wrestler." Well, they had never heard that response before, and they're like, looking left and right, like, "What exactly does that do?" And I go, I just kind of made me I look left and right. I'm like, "You might want to watch." Because I'm kind of making this up as I go.
Yeah, exactly. You can't have a plan. It doesn't work. You know what? It got me in a plan with his buddy and some guy that doesn't want to be my buddy, Don Fry.
Yeah.
When he stepped on my foot and I fell backwards when he was on Queer Street, which means out on your feet, he was staggering. He stepped on my foot and I fell down. I rolled over and it was evolving at the time, and I go, okay, I'm going to snap his fucking ankle. I'm going to reach down and grab it and crank it like a strategic move like I've been training for. And if I would have just balls to the walls and said, fuck this, I'm getting a stand-up and did what I'd done for a year since I was 9 years old, I would have got away from him. But no, I'm going to do my little sneaky submission hold and twist his ankle. See what that got me. It got Don Fry going, fuck take Abbott 25 years later. So it goes back to styles. And wrestling, Dan utilized wrestling to no end. And back before...
As the first by 6, what were the newest rules other than time? I think time was starting.
Okay, there wasn't no eye gouging and no biting.
Okay.
That was it. because I said, "Can I fish hook?" And John McCarthy's like, well, "Fish hook? What the hell's that?" And I don't know if you're wrestling rooms,
Yeah,
but
I know exactly. what you're
after
talking
wrestling, there's like a free for all fight practice, and in high school, and so everybody would fight, and I would fight the coach, and he would get fish hooks on me, come in with the side,
Yeah.
just rip my lip off, and bang my head on the mat. The tears are coming out of my eyes. He's like, "Yeah, it's a fish hook." I guess every wrestler knows what a fish hook is. I guess John's not a wrestler. He's the jujitsu stooge. Anyways, so I asked him if you could fish hook, and he's all, "What's that?" And then I said, "What about these things?" I didn't tell him I modified them. I said, "There's speed bag gloves. I found at like a Best Buy package store, box store for sporting goods. It wasn't a Best Buy. It was like a Dick's Sporting Goods or
Yeah,
what have you."
that's the big chain. That's out
Yeah,
there.
it was a chain thing, and I found them in there, and it was like speed bag gloves. And I'm like, those look interesting because I need to wrestle. And I looked at them, and they had a plastic tube that was
Yeah,
sewn
that
into
little
it.
bar that you could.
Yeah, and I cut that bar out, and I didn't tell him anything. I said, "Can you wear these things?" He says, "If you want to, if you want to." Like, I'm like, this guy's never been in a fight in his life. You're gonna punch somebody with your hands, and then you have to fight two other people. It doesn't work that way in the street or where there are no rules. So he's like, "Yeah, you can wear them if you want to." And they were all like, that's all in Walter Fox going to the first, his first NHB story. It's all in there. And the referee, his name is Little Winchell Duncan.
Okay.
Yeah, Little Winchell Duncan. Uh, he's a referee in that show. So I don't know him being a cop and off Winchell's and everything runs together.
Yeah. Off the same aspect, but I mean, it was like I actually asked him, "Can I wear wrestling shoes?" And like, well, if you do, you're not allowed to kick or stop. I'm going, what did I lose just now?
Absolutely.
So I wore wrestling shoes because again, having a good surface to grip off.
I wanted
to
knee
drive.
pads, and I left them at home. And then Andy, I don't know if you remember Andy.
Anderson?
No.
Andy,
He was a little guy that fought a big fat guy that I gouged him. Andy Anderson.
Yeah.
Andy Anderson. I guess he's in prison. He fell on bad luck.
Oh,
Meyerowitz told me he's like in federal prison or something. But he went and got me. They weren't padded, just knee coverings.
yeah, like the sleeves.
So I wouldn't get mat burns.
Yeah.
And I wore those. I still have them. They're covered in blood. Not mine. And so as far as gear went along, as gloves and that kind of stuff, as Dan's saying, as long as you didn't have steel things in them, that's what he said. And there was only two rules: you couldn't bite and you couldn't eye gouge. And then after I fought, you couldn't fish hook.
Who would have won between Don Fry and Hoist Gracie? The fans want to know from you guys.
Don Fry.
Yeah, Don had the wrestler. Basically, he had that.
The jiu-jitsu secret's out. It's not like Steven Seagal or whatever that you can't quantify his secret moves because he uses brain things. His secret's out. It's not submission's not hard to learn if you've wrestled your whole life. If you have a strong grappling background, I guarantee you, Dan would not get choked out by any submission nowadays. But back in the day, they introduced the guillotine, and I fell victim to it, and I believe Dan did too. From Shamrock, what a joke that guy is. Whoa, keep me on track. So Dan was out there, and it was all new, but everything's not new anymore. Everybody knows just about everything.
Yeah, especially when you can Google match after match. I mean, it's you know, you can trade. There's so much footage that you can see, and you got all kinds of cool coaches out there that they've got 30 plus years in it as well that can help you break down tapes to see what is an opponent's strength, what their weaknesses are. You always try to avoid your strengths.
You know what?
Capitalize on weaknesses.
I don't want to cut you off. You're a wrestler. You people don't know exactly how much I've wrestled, and I don't really care. But I've wrestled with some top guys. It doesn't really matter how much wrestling you can watch, how much wrestling you can know. It matters what's in your heart, what's in your head, and how tough you are. You can't just go, I'm going to the wrestling room and I'm going to be a tough guy and fight in the UFC.
Yeah, I totally agree. It doesn't work like that. You either have that
Natural ability.
boneheaded determination, and you have to have heart. Those are two things that no coach can really instill inside of you. Either you have it or you don't. And there's ways to condition people, but I've been in the practice room. I coach at Arizona State. I coach at Michigan State. There's guys inside that practice room that they are king of the practice room. But you put them out for that live crowd, they choke. And
Paul Herrera.
And then there's other guys that they can't walk across that wrestle mat without tripping over that painted out line. But you put them out in front of a crowd, it's like the biggest vitamin B12. It's like dun dun dun. They come alive, and most people fall somewhere in between those two levels.
Now, we posted some clips on this channel, Dan, of your toxic masculinity podcast that you're doing with Tank's buddy Don
What do
Fry.
you think of that toxic masculinity name in the first place? Toxic masculinity.
Oh yeah, if I understood it, I would know. I mean, I understand.
Oh no, trust me. I actually had to ask because the Don's
No, I'm dissecting it in my brain right now, and I'll put my disclaimer out there. You know, I had a series of strokes when I was in the hospital, so I'm struggling to get to average intelligence. But I'll toxic. What's the
masculinity? Toxic masculinity.
It's kind of an oxymoron, kind of like light heavyweights.
Well, when you think about today's political atmosphere, I mean, it goes well beyond that because I had to ask Don some questions about that, and he's the one that brought up all these other. I thought, well, you put in a lot more thought than I'll give you credit for, which actually it was comical, but but it was we do have quite a bit of the neutering of our society, more and more. From parental aspects to people just be what you are.
Yes, and it's not like after my first show, which I pretty much dominated, except for in my novel, Olaf cheated his way to the finals, and I lost due to fatigue and everything else. Not that I was not in shape. I get in shape, people. I just show up when I shouldn't. But that whole point of Olaf, cheat a lot, and all that, it's all about how tough you are. It's not, I mean, that guy is a tough man. You can't take that away from him. Back to Hoist Gracie. That man's a tough man, but he's 180 pounds. And jiu-jitsu is not going to save him because I know jiu-jitsu and I know how to stop it. He's going to try to stop a 600-pound sledgehammer coming in his face. Good luck. And Dan will tie him up in knots. I'm pretty sure Dan's not going to get tapped out ever again. So that's where it goes. Bitter old man.
No,
it's just the truth. I'm the purveyor of truth.
Yeah.
And then people get all pissed off, these people that ask these questions, because you can't buy being tough. And everybody wants to be a tough guy for some reason. I'm at ease with it. Whatever. I just laugh at people now.
I always say they don't have to ask to be my Facebook friend if they don't like what I'm talking about. They can simply go bye-bye.
Yeah, exactly.
Move along. That's the freedoms that we still have.
Maybe that's how I ended up out in the middle of the desert out here.
No, it was actually interesting driving off at 136 because it's kind of like going, I feel like I might be getting the seasick here.
When we came out to view this house, because we were looking all over the place, I could live anywhere I want to live. And I go, once we got on this road, I'm starting to really like this place. I hadn't even seen it yet. And she's like, yeah. And then I came to the dirt road where it says private road.
Yes.
I go, I love this place. I hope the house is like the pictures. And it is. So, yeah, I'm enjoying living here.
Do you have, how much land do you have here?
It's an acre.
Okay.
I own all the way that way. See where the fence ends?
Yeah.
That's the property line. I'm going to put a fence across the back there.
You mean, okay, the metal fence or
the further fence out there, the neighbor's fence.
I see it. Yep.
That's to our property line. So I sit out here and chill with my wife, the only person I can stand, and of course Sam Devon.
Yeah, in limited dosages though. Okay,
Okay.
limited dosages.
I don't know because I was back in the days. I was. I'm sure you don't remember this because we all know the yahoos that we run into in this life. But I was at UFC 5, I believe, in Charlotte,
Okay.
and I was one of these dilettantes that comment on us at the thing, and I'm like, I was so in love with wrestling and that, like wrestling ever since I was 9 years old. That was all about me. And
Just way,
you,
way before I started
yeah, well,
wrestling.
so you got on the elevator, and I'm sure I was across the highways drinking cocktails with the locals there. And I was just there to check it out because Art Davey told me that I would be in the show,
Okay.
but not this show. So I had someone fly me out there, and so I was there. And you got in the elevator, and you had a towel around your neck, and somebody was with you. And I go, oh, so you're Dan Severn, and you're like, yeah, like you would talk to him, Mark. And I go, listen, man, I'm a fucking wrestler. And I go, don't fucking let wrestling down. And you looked at me like I was crazy. And I'm like, I go, you got to stand up for wrestling, man. You got to take care of these guys. And you're like, oh, yeah. I'm like, okay, idiot, quit fucking talking to me. And I go, because if you don't, I'm going to come back and kick your ass. When I was getting off the elevator, I timed it right. And you just kind of shrugged and looked at your friend like, that guy's fucking crazy, right? We meet crazy people
Well,
in
yeah,
this life.
you just never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah, you're like, what, dude? Hey, calm down. I never met you before in my life. But, yeah, that was my first bump in with Sam Devon.
There's a fan tank that wanted to know if it bothered you to lose to Scott Steiner.
No. Scott, it's a good guy to lose to.
All right, as we wind it down here, what is your thoughts on the current UFC scene right now compared to what it was when you guys started?
I don't really watch it. I kind of catch up here's and there's. So, you know, whatever, whoever, whatever. Back in the day, it was the premise was who's the baddest guy walking around the streets in a bar, whatever. And so Dan Severn, the likes of me, all these guys came together to fight like men, not a sport. It wasn't like I participate in a sport. It was like you got out and fought. And it's like if you were into soccer, you would carry a soccer ball around in your car and stop at every stoplight and start juggling it with your feet. But that's how it was with the fighting. They were real warriors. Now it's like, oh, I train in MMA. Oh, so in your head, that's making you think you're tough. But these guys, I don't know. And then, like I said yesterday, all these little guys should look up and thank and pay homage to whoever invented a weight scale. Because if they didn't, they could never compete in a tournament. What? Yeah, why don't they have a tournament? And then I vaguely know some names like that Nagano guy. He could fight. Who's the little leprechaun guy?
Connor.
McGregor. He could fight him. They could have a tournament like that, and then I could get that GSP. That guy is like a metrosexual looking dude. I would hate to lose to that guy. Like, oh my god.
What did you think about GSP's last fight? Some people said it was given to him.
I've never seen him fight, and I don't know. I just the way he looks like Van Damme.
What time there was his last fight?
That was a few years ago now.
I thought he was coming back or something like that.
There's always talk of him versus Khabib.
Possibly coming back.
It's a money issue, I think.
He strikes me like Anthony Macias, kind of like a metrosexual kind of guy. But you got to take your hat off. I guess he's talented.
And I guess it's happening right now. Tiger Woods has been in a serious car accident. He's in surgery right now.
Oh
Any,
wow!
any thoughts on Tiger Woods? I don't
I
strike. You don't
I
strike
have
me
a
as a
joke
golfer.
about it just right off the top of my head. I was like, did he mess up his car, or was his wife with him, or now ex-wife? Didn't she beat the shit out of his car with a golf club?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I think in Florida that was a big deal. So that was my attempt at a joke that he got in a car accident. Ha ha ha! Did his wife beat up the car with a golf club?
There's a fan that wants to know your guys' thoughts on testosterone replacement therapy.
That's just an excuse for pussies that have to take steroids because they can't be who they are by themselves, and they're mental pussies, and they fucking have to take a crutch. I hate these redhead guys that fight. It's cheating.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like there should be there's rules and regulations to all. You know what you asked before. It, it's a nice competition. Is what the UFC has morphed into. You know,
Yes,
it's nowhere near.
it's a sport.
Yeah, it's nowhere near the spectacle that it was when it first began of having big mid versus different smaller. I mean, have weight differences of 400 plus pounds,
Yeah.
but you still had mid that climbed in there and they're ready to throw down. And when you only had, you know, just either a couple rules to abide by and no time rounds, you just simply wait until somebody was unconscious, whether that was because they choked them out or they knocked them out, or your corner could throw a towel in the 8-man tournament concept. So we
Yes.
talked about that.
It's
also.
not illegal. They should do it. They should have it. Why don't they have it? Because none of the fighters will do it.
It's well, you would have to have so many alternates in place because what's the chances of one person surviving three
Well,
matches,
right, but
or at least the first two to go into a fight?
you've fought in tournaments. You know you suck it up. It's
Well,
not like, oh, I have a hurt hand. I can't fight now. You suck it up and do what you got to do.
but that, I think, but a lot of that is because of, well, again, for myself, I'll speak
Yeah,
because
sure.
of that wrestling background, doing 4, 5, 6, 7 matches a day.
Tournaments.
You know, so do that tournament format, knowing that okay, first round I've got this guy from the school,
Absolutely.
whatever. I go against this guy. Next round I'm going to get other ones. But the same way, if you jumped into freestyle and Greco-Roman tournaments, you jump in, it's a blind draw, and you simply know you could be going up against a national champion, a World Cup champion, Olympian, or something like that. Your first
Sure.
time out, and you go out there because that was just the luck of the draw, and then whether you win or lose, you're always guaranteed at least 2 matches.
You didn't have to make sure the conditions were right.
Right.
You went out and wrestled no matter what. Even if you had a broken foot, you went out and wrestled.
Yeah.
You didn't sit there and go, oh, I have to make an excuse. I can't fight. Everything's got to be perfect for these guys to fight. And that's not me. I'm a warrior. I'll step up there. I'll take a loss. I don't care because everybody else are pussies and they don't want to fight.
Last fan question I'll ask. Thank you, all the fans, for your questions. I know we didn't get many of them, but these guys go off on tangents, which is fine. That's what we want.
It's the ADD kicking in here right now. That's all.
But favorite match, Dan, from WWE, and Tank, they want to know your favorite match from WCW. And also, last thing, fans, there will be a high quality version of this released with the full video. This is just the cell phone version.
I mean, this high quality, whatever fan favorite type match. I work predominantly with Owen Hart, with Shamrock was in the mix, and Steve Blackman. I mean, it seemed like there was always like the three of us getting together. I had other individual matches that took place, but it seemed like towards say it kind of kept getting more that I was with those three. But there was the inevitability was there was a match 3 between Shamrock and myself, a rubber match that could have easily have played out in the wacky world of professional wrestling that never got its opportunity, and that just it's lost. So lost opportunity.
Yeah. Well, let's see here. I like wrestling with everybody, but I would have to say for the World Championship, WCW World Championship match against Sid Vicious, I thought I had him. I was busting him up pretty good, and I was knew my novice thing, and I turned my back on him, and he snuck up and choked me out. And it's just because another excuse. Here comes the reason why. Is because I just didn't know what I was doing. I thought I had him, and I was being braggadocious. I turned my back to him, and everybody saw him choke me out. I had that belt this close in my hands, this close, and it was snatched away from Sid. And thank God I went to the hotel bar and got drunk because I don't know what I would have done if I couldn't have done that.